behind every spooky horror movie is a notion that the events really did take place. But is that true for the 1982 hit classic film The Poltergeist? Reportedly, yes. The film was based loosely on the events experienced by a 1953 New York family, the Hermanns, and their little boy James. But the film's story centers around a little girl and a poltergeist who terrorizes her and her entire family. It seems that superstitious legend holds that a number of strange deaths are connected to a curse on the Poltergeist film series. Was a curse the cause for the deaths that follow the film's trilogy series? What strange events occurred on set? What followed the cast and crew members home after filming? We talk about this and much more on episode 22, The Curse and Paranormal Aftermath of the film The Poltergeist.
So, if you've landed here at Hollyweird Paranormal, it's clear you're a fan of mystery, mayhem, and the unexplained in Hollywood true crime. I'm Dr. Shiloh, a former cop.
And I'm Dr. Scott, a former Hollywood entertainment professional. We're now both forensic psychologists working in Southern California.
Are you fascinated by the internal processes of criminals? Do you wonder, how could they do that?
In each episode of our podcast, LA Not So Confidential, we dissect the nexus where true crime, forensic psychology, and entertainment meet.
We'll serve up fascinating cases viewed through the lens of human behavior, delivered with our signature gallows humor.
You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play at LA Not So Confidential. We're ready for download and subscription. You can also follow us on Instagram at LA Not So Podcast and on Twitter at LA Not So Pod.
Come and join us for LA
Not So
Confidential.
Hey boo hey.
Hi.
Hey guys. Welcome to Hollywood Paranormal. We are a Hollywood true crime and paranormal podcast. And if you're just tuning in to our podcast for the first time, welcome.
Where have you been?
Exactly. And if you're tuning in once more, then we've missed you.
Where have you been?
I know, seriously. Happy Halloween, queens.
Yes.
So you heard it in the intro. We are going to be talking about the Poltergeist movie and what influenced the movie and our thoughts about the occurrences that happened on set.
Yes.
And, of course, the paranormal aftermath. I know. There's a lot of tea we got to spill on this set. I know.
Yes, there is.
Bryce has many thoughts.
You know, it's funny. This is actually one of the very few horror films that I've seen in its entirety. Yep. Really doing it. The research that I will do for this podcast knows no limits. Unless it's a horror film, and then there's a very hard limit.
Bryce is Carol Ann
I
freaking
really am.
out, crying.
Yeah, it's
watching
great.
this movie.
I think my spirit animal is the psychic, the old lady.
Oh
She's
my
God,
God, Zelda Rubinstein.
She's my whole world.
She is. I love her in this film.
Yeah, I mean, she's just such a, like, it's so funny. She's such a weird little, like, icon of the 80s. Like,
She
have all
is.
this, like, yuppie culture and, like, new, and everything has to be, like, the latest cutting edge. But then, like, in the midst of that, you have this, like, woman who's in so many movies as, like, the little sassy old lady. And I am here for it. So here for it.
I'm here for her like bifocal or her bicolor like aviator glasses when she walks in. I'm like, yes.
That is a Quan
Give me-
right there.
yes. Her little twist, her hair, her little coif, and then her dress. She comes in like put together. She's like serving some 80s realness right
You
there.
cannot fight a ghost if you are not put together. That is just
No.
facts.
Not without your aviators.
Yeah.
Her future was so bright she had to wear shades.
Ew.
Oh, I loved her in that film, and her voice and everything just like made it worthwhile. So guys, I guess we can begin by going all the way back. And now, you know how we do. In order to begin, we need to go back. We need to go back to 1953 and, surprisingly, 1653.
We always go back to the 50s. Our country is trying to go back to the 50s. Our podcast is going back to the 50s. It's all relative.
It is.
That's
Imagine
right.
us trying to go back to 1650.
Ooh. Goody Tammy, you look so good in your little black frock.
Do you like my apron?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
Delicious.
I have 3 of the same color
Ooh.
and length. This one I was a little naughty. I went a little half-inch
Gasp.
shorter.
Ankle?
Which?
Yes. Which?
Never. Maybe. All right, guys. So let's start with this. Before we go back, what is a poltergeist? Let's start with that. According to Wikipedia,
Ew.
the poltergeist, or a poltergeist, is German for noisy ghost. And it's a type of ghost responsible for physical disturbances, loud noises, objects being thrown or destroyed for no reason. They usually haunt a particular person rather than a location. And it has been said that a person with such a magnitude of anger can also make these occurrences manifest.
Whoa.
Poltergeist history has been reported around the world since the early 1st century. Some famously known cases include the Enfield Horror,
Sure.
the Bell Witch, or what people like to claim, the Haunted Boy or Roland Doe, and the Borley Rectory. Now, guys, we can go back to 1953. Finally, yes. So it started with a family. It started with popping sounds. It always starts with the sound that progresses into something a little more chaotic and or sinister, right? It started in a house in New York, a young boy and a poltergeist, I am not kidding, by the name of Popper.
Oh my God. Look, you little gay club drug. Like, no. That is not scary. I've been to West Hollywood. You're not a ghost.
Oh, yeah, poppers?
Yeah, exactly. They're like, oh, no, it's a ghost. No, that is just a twink from the Abbey. You're fine. You do not need an exorcism. Anywho.
How do you know? He throws glitter everywhere.
Everywhere.
Every freaking where. Don't eat it.
Look at that ghost. No, that's your oldest son. It's fine. Stop that.
Now, according to prairieghosts.com, the Hermanns house was located off of 1648 Redwood Path in Seaford, New York. Now, this is at the other side of where the greatest number of Indians were killed on Long Island, from where the famous Amityville house is located.
No.
Already, we're in a trifecta of bad juju here. So the 2 movies made famous by the 2 separate movie series, and they are a few minutes drive from each other. What a coinkydink. So the great number of Indians were killed near the corner of Merrick and Cedar Shore Roads and Massapequa by John Underhill in 1653. So now we're going to the 1600s. I know.
Leave Native Americans alone.
In both the Amityville case and the Poltergeist case, an angry Indian chief was killed on this land. This killing was done on behalf of the Dutch. The most famous Sachem chief of the Massapequa Indians was Sachem Takapushwa, who sold a large part of the area in 1658. Some point the finger to Takapushwa as being the Indian or the angry Indian chief that caused the disturbances and hauntings in what became known as the Amityville Horror movie, and then later the Poltergeist movie. These were just little claims. Now, the movie Poltergeist was inspired by the Hermann family. Some believe that it was the Enfield Poltergeist, the Cheeseman Park Poltergeist, or the Black Hope Horror that may have inspired directors Tobe Hooper and Spielberg. So a lot of people think Spielberg directed this film, but I watched the movie last night, and if you tune into the first minute and a half of the credits, it says directed by Tobe Hooper.
Interesting.
It does say that. Spielberg was the co-director as well, and he was also the producer of this film. So it seems like there wasn't a shortage of poltergeists within the past few centuries, so... The Hermann family were just like any other typical family of the 1950s. The parents were working class parents. They had 2 kids and an average size home. Now, on February 3rd, 1953 was a day like most any other. It was clear and cold outside, and Mrs. Lucille Hermann, a registered nurse, was there to welcome her children home from school and to prepare dinner. So the children were Lucille, age 13, and James, age 12. Two ordinary kids with ordinary interests. Around 3 p.m., soon after the two Herman children entered the kitchen, chaos immediately erupted in the house. In moments, various bottles containing liquid in different rooms of the house suddenly began to pop their caps and dance around, just like the tweaks at the Abbey.
Yes.
Right?
I'm really not sure that they didn't just, like, make a wrong turn, but go on. Like, oh, no, we're being haunted. Like, no, you're in West Hollywood. It's fine. You're not being haunted.
Popping bottles of champagne is what we're doing. No one saw the bottles move or explode, but all of them heard the caps as they popped loose and the bottle's contents went spewing into the air. Now, James Herman, the patriarch of the household, the dad, arrives at the house from work a short time after and ruled out the incident as perhaps, not even kidding, humidity.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the South, and the only thing that was popping were my barrettes and my hair tie because the humidity was poofing up my hair. That's the only thing that humidity was like causing the popping sounds.
We didn't have alcohol in our house growing up, so I don't know about that. But I do know that our doors would like either not close or pop open because the wood would swell.
Yes.
We had like pine wood doors in our house. It was very country rustic. And so that would happen a lot where like the door would like, you either couldn't get it closed because it was too swollen, or if it was closed, it would pop open because you would like hear it.
That still didn't accurately explain how the caps pop, especially the ones that also had the screw top heads.
Totally.
So 2 days passed and everyone seemed to have forgotten about the incident until it happened again around the same time. James started to suspect his science-loving son, who had somehow rigged the bottles to pop to scare his family. He kept a close eye on James for the next few days until he tried surprising him or ambushing him in the bathroom. He charges into the bathroom. Poor James is brushing his teeth just to see if James was trying to rig anything. But suddenly, right in front of him, several bottles of shampoo and other contents popped open right before his eyes. And I quote him saying he was gooed. He was covered in goo because...
Girl, this is salacious.
Because all like the shampoo bottle, like just like... you know, somehow like the cap popped open and he was gooed by the shampoo and all this stuff just ensued. All this chaos ensued in the bathroom. So after searching the house for any rigged wires or any suspicious items, Mr. Herman called the cops to assist him with his problem. Wow, okay. Skeptical at first, the police thought he was hallucinating, but since he was known as a respected member of the community, they decided to check it out for themselves, sending Detective Joseph Tozzi to investigate the case. Now, over the next several days, Tozzi kept track record of all the incidents in the house. So Tozzi was another witness to all this unexplainable occurrences that were happening. More bottles popped, porcelain figurines moved and would throw themselves against the wall and break, and other phenomenon increase. They assisted the aid of Father William McLeod of the Church of St. William the Abbot, as news was breaking out about the incidents through newspapers, radio, and television. Newsday reporter David Kahn said in a Newsday article called A Home's Bad Vibration that a British reporter saw a flashbulb leap from an end table and cream into the drapes and bounce twice on the floor.
Whoa.
So this went on a little over a month when the pauper finally decided to leave the household. After tumultuous events, press and weirdos approaching the family from all around the world, the pauper decided to leave and never come back again.
Wow.
So what was the reason for these strange occurrences? Was one of the members of the family causing this? We might never know. Until this day, no one has a clue why or how it happened. Now, there had been a record of 67 recorded disturbances between February the 3rd of 1953 to March the 10th of 1953. Unbelievably, the Hermans had been visited by detectives, building inspectors, electricians, plumbers, firemen, parapsychologists, and half of the weird like the weird nutcases on the East Coast, and yet none of them had been able to present a satisfactory explanation for what had occurred in their home. Weeks after the household returned to normal, experts still came to investigate and theorize about what had taken place. In August of 1985, the scientists at Duke University still had no clue as to what happened and why. By this time, though, the Hermanns had had enough of the investigations and just wanted to live their lives peacefully and normally. They just wanted to have a normal life again without any of these people coming around knocking on their door.
Yeah.
James Hermann no longer cared why the disturbances had taken place. He was just happy that they were just over. He moved on. He, went to school, got married, and had kids of his own. Now, Mrs. Hermann told an Associated Press reporter, "I don't think there is a definite solution. It was just one of those things with no rhyme or reason to it. But there was a definite physical force behind it." So this case had a lot of key witnesses. People did see, and they did record in video that they had witnessed all these things flying around. Even like news reporters would like come in and flock to the house to see, things flying in the air, bottles popping and stuff.
Weird.
Very weird. Now, here's a big theory, and this is something that I am having problems trying to research more of, but I have such a big interest in it in regards to psychokinesis.
Ooh.
But here's a relation with RSPK, which is called recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis.
Sorry to interrupt. What is the difference between psychokinesis and telekinesis?
Psychokinesis is the ability to move move things with your mind. Telekinesis, I believe, is like to transfer words and communication with the mind.
Okay.
Yeah, to communicate with your mind, I guess you can say.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to put you on the spot. I just genuinely...
Way to go.
I'd never heard of psychokinesis. It sounds 10 times scarier. Please leave me alone. Thank you.
I mean, they're both alleged psychic abilities.
Sure.
With telekinesis, I know every part of you. It's like knowing a part of a person, knowing their mind. So yeah, it's like knowing a part of their mind and what they're thinking, where, psychokinesis is just moving, things with your mind. And we'll go into that soon.
Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
I mean, it's been documented and has been reported, and I feel like there should be more articles about this. And if anyone has like any links to those articles, I'd really like to read more about it. But with RSPK, recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis, it's typically related to poltergeist activities. So here's the things. Poltergeist activity centers around teenagers, males and females going through puberty.
Sure.
So we could say that the average range of these individuals can be between the ages of 12 to 18, 19-ish. Now, that's not to say that poltergeist activity doesn't happen to anyone outside of these parameters, because it does. But for the most part, this is the most prolific group by far it seems to happen to. So I'm going to assume that we're all aware of our brains and of our minds and what they're capable of doing. Our brains are capable of doing some pretty amazing things. This leads me to psychokinesis. PK, for example, has been documented a few times. Now, the most notable that I can remember that has been documented, I believe it's Nina Kalogina. I think that was her last name. Can't remember. I think that's her pseudonym other than her real name. She was documented for 20 years performing feats of psychokinesis.
Whoa.
Much of that under laboratory conditions. She was able to move objects with her mind.
That is some X-Men bullshit.
It
that is
terrifying. I know, Ultra, right there.
Yeah.
With intense focus, no doubt. This is all documented. She is one of the very, 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 very few cases. Now, RSPK events happen when pubescent females and males are undergoing heavy stress loads. So whether that stress seems to be from an unhappy family life, school, outside pressures, or from the stress of puberty itself, there's always seems to be a certain common denominator in every situation. So theories as to how RSPK might work range from our minds letting off steam during times of high stress or emotional turmoil to ghosts or entities taking advantage of young teenagers during what could be a window of opportunity. Could be.
Oh, interesting.
Making them susceptible to, poltergeist phenomenon. So this is something I really, really want to look into because it does make sense. You see cases like this in the Enfield poltergeist and the Herman family, and even Roland Doe, the real story behind The Exorcist.
Yes.
And I'm sure many other cases. And in a lot of these cases, the person, who's being possessed or where all this, chaos is, ensuing around always focuses on a young child or children. In the case of The Entity here in Los Angeles, in Culver City, actually, where this woman claimed to have been assaulted and sexually assaulted by an entity that just appeared in her house out of nowhere. But all this stuff started to occur in her house and to her while she had 3 young boys living in that house. Wow. She had 3 young sons. So they were all like between the ages of 12 and 18. So they feel maybe with 3 of their minds together, with them going through all this stress because they were living under a stressful environment. Their mom was a single mom. She had a string of unstable relationships. She would go to bars. They were like living like on the skin of their teeth pretty much. Like the mom barely could afford rent, and then this event started to happen to them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wondered too, like our brains aren't fully developed until, especially men, our brains don't develop until like much later into our 20s. Do you know what I mean? And so I wonder if like the barrier, for lack of a better word, between like our world and then the aspects of our world that we can't understand or don't understand yet. I wonder if like as like with children, they sort of traditionally like have less filter and less jadedness, and the same thing like as teens grow and like there's like less of I don't want to say an ability, but like less of a barrier between them and like whatever energy is coming towards them.
Right.
So it seems almost like a manifestation that like meets the energy halfway. You know what I mean?
Well, we mentioned this too in our listener's tale, where children growing up, they're like sponges. They're so sensitive.
Right. This is why we should not have them. Got it. Yes, you are right. Go on.
And they don't have the stresses of an adult,
right?
Of a teenager. You know what I mean? And I feel like with these individuals between the ages of 12 and 18, they're crossing this threshold of their innocence into adulthood. You know what I mean? Thinking about it, like high school is such a tough time, for a lot of young adults because everything is happening so quickly, and but their bodies are changing, their minds are changing, hormones, everything,
ghosts,
and everything. In this case, with this family, it was not only James, but Lucille was also between the ages of 12 and 13.
Yeah.
So maybe both of them were very sensitive and could possess like RSPK. Both minds together are probably, causing these occurrences to happen.
And I always think about stories like what happened in Salem.
Yes.
Like if you've seen The Crucible or read it, which we've talked about, I think a couple times before, I'm like low-key obsessed with it. But the idea of like group hysteria and like what that can cause, because it's that thing where like, but physically there are things happening, in that example to this group of young women. They're cold, they're fainting, they're seeing visions that are corroborating with one another. That must be in that time witchcraft, or these children, they're both like manifesting this same energy. That must be like a ghost or a poltergeist or something. And it's so crazy, I think, what the human psyche can like latch on to, especially when you're sort of unstable in that. I mean, I know nothing about psychology. Do you know what I mean? So this is just pure conjecture on my part. Like nobody, do not listen to anything I say. But it's so interesting to me that like these events keep happening through history on varying scales, where like on one end of the spectrum you have people that are dying because of this like group hysteria caused by teenage angst, essentially, all the way to like families who are like experiencing turmoil within their home because of the same kind of thing. I don't know. I find that very interesting. Send us your real research, because otherwise I will just keep wildly conjecting.
No, there is a movie that recently came out. It has Bella Thorne in it. It's called, I think it's called The Assassination Squad or something like that.
Oh yeah, I've been seeing billboards for it.
And it's kind of like, I read an article that it's in like, it echoes like the Salem witch trial.
Oh, cool.
And I just don't want to see it because it just looks a little pretentious.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, they're all like, it's set in high school and all hell breaks loose.
Sure.
And it has to do with, you know, teen angst and social media and all sorts of stuff. So
look, there's only one movie I'll be seeing this weekend, and that is A Star Is Born, because I'm a good gay and I will support Lady Gaga. How dare they try and make me see another movie?
I can't wait to see that.
Oh, girl, I know.
am like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it. Did you hear that Barbara Streisand was on set?
Yes, I did hear that.
It gave me so much life.
They had a like private screening, like it was very rough cut of like some of the very first footage in her home, and they were like all there with her. And like she kind of like not gave her blessing, but like made a speech and like talked about the importance of this film. And obviously I was crying as I was hearing about that. You know, just Babs, Gaga, me.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I just can't wait.
Girl.
Don't disappoint me. Don't disappoint me, Bradley Cooper. No, it's Bradley Cooper.
Coop.
Don't disappoint us, Bradley Cooper. All right. So here's another thing too. It's kind of interesting that this occurred in 1953, and the massacre occurred in 1653.
Ew.
Tricentennial.
That is weird. So what is the next tricentennial? 53 to 100 years is a centennial?
Oh,
So we're so bad at math. All right, well, let us know about math. I'll get my abacus.
1953 plus 300. So it would be 2253
Okay.
will be the next, I guess, haunting.
So when they unearth this podcast from a time capsule for posterity's sake, they will know.
But also, like, the Amityville Horror was another case that occurred in the 70s.
Ew.
So that's another interesting thought, too. But there's a lot of interesting connections here because this whole entire land where this family, like, had their house and had these occurrences was just down the street from the Amityville house. And it is predominantly on an area where this massacre happened with the Indians. So Lord knows if like parts of this land is, you know, cursed or has some bad juju or residual vibes. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that this movie was made in regards or was inspired by the Herman family. Now, the film Poltergeist was released in 1982, and it's the story of Stephen and Diane Freeling, a California couple with 3 children. And Stephen is a real estate developer, and Diane stays at home with the kids. So in the movie, the family begins to experience some bizarre events. The littlest of the Freelings, young little Carol Ann, starts to have conversations with the television set. One night, a hand reaches through the television set as an earthquake hits the region. Carol Ann announces ominously the famous quote, "They're here." Following the announcement, all manner of literal freaking hell breaks loose. Glasses of milk start breaking themselves, and silverware twists on its own. Trees come to life and grab kids, while little Carol Ann gets sucked into another dimension. For the Freelings, it's scary business. And filming for the Poltergeist movie began decades after the Hermans were affected by spirits. But the cast and crew of Poltergeist seem to have been just as deeply affected by the haunting as the Freemans themselves, because there's a lot of unexplainable occurrences that happen while shooting and even off the set. And Bryce, you have those receipts.
Yes. So the first thing is that a lot of people believe that the curse, if you will, started because if, like, I don't know, spoiler alert for the rest of this podcast. If you've not seen this movie, pause us. Go watch it really quick so that I'm not like spoiling the end for you.
No, seriously, go watch it. I watched it last night because I hadn't seen it in over 3 years.
And it's not that scary. It is scary, but
no, it's fucking
like
scary.
Stylized and so iconic that like if I can watch it, you can too.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just gonna give my seal of approval for like my fellow scaredy cats. Like, no, you'll be okay, I promise. I don't know. For whatever reason, this one doesn't scare me too bad. So I've seen it all the way through. Didn't even have to close my eyes. I'm so brave. But in the scene, there's like this huge thunderstorm that kicks up, and there's like essentially a landslide / sinkhole, and she falls into that like pit of water.
Yes.
And then all these skeletons start popping up.
Yes.
And at the time, this is no longer the case, but at the time it was actually cheaper to buy real human skeletons from like a science, like someone who would donate bodies for posterity to like science labs. Those companies, it was cheaper to get skeletons from them than it would be to buy like a prefab skeleton, like a fake skeleton. And that is no longer the case. Like in the movie industry, as we all know, the bottom line is like what rules over everything.
Right.
So we've talked so many times about like how actors and, you know, the crew are abused in the name of profit. This is like kind of a similar example where it's like it was just cheaper to buy real human skeletons. So when she's in that pit of water, she's actually in there with like an actual, those are real skeletons.
It's a real corpse.
Allegedly, she did not know that.
No.
And so there was like a lot of controversy around that. But that is where most people think that the manifestation of the curse actually began, was that it was the disrespect and like the unearthing of these like actual human skeletons that were used, because they were not donated to science like they were intended. They were used in like a movie set, and it like manifested the curse.
There's a part in the film where the family gets into the car and they're backing out, and you see all these coffins not only popping up from their house, from their yard, but they're popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
And there's this one scene where one coffin like pops up in front of the car, and you see the corpse being thrown to the windshield. And
Classic.
right then and there, like, you're right. Look, I've worked on film sets, and I've seen some really good crew members handle things with care, and other crew members not handle things with care.
So again, that's like this episode is wild conjecture for Halloween, but that is where many people think that the curse sort of got its first domino tip, and then from there, like the material itself kind of manifests. So the two main aspects of the curse are the deaths that occurred. The first one was actually based, or not based, but the first one was O'Rourke. She is the little girl, and she was actually in all three of the films, the originals. She then died almost immediately after filming the third one. She had like a bowel obstruction that was misdiagnosed. And she died. This is so sad. She died. She was 12 on the operating table. So she
died of a cardiac arrest.
And like allegedly, it was right after filming, and it was misdiagnosed as Crohn's disease. And because of that, when they went to operate, the toxins like in her body basically just overwhelmed her system, and she couldn't take the stress of like being in surgery, and she died. So that's the first one, because she was so young. It was so sudden after the filming, and it was like such an easy misdiagnosis. Like, it's very odd that it was misdiagnosed, essentially.
Right.
You know, and of course anything can happen, but she's the one, and she actually died right here at Cedars-Sinai.
Isn't it crazy?
Which is so sad.
Close to home,
It's just like 12 years old is too young. I mean,
it is.
Anyone dying is very sad, but like that she just made it, like they literally had just finished wrapping, and then she died. I think they finished wrapping in May, and she died in like June or July, I want to say. So it was like months after, and the third film hadn't yet been released. So that was the first one that people attribute as the curse, like that, you know, she didn't even survive to see the final one. And then the other one is actually the Dominique Dunne, who played the oldest sister, and she was only in the first Poltergeist movie. And she also was like very young. She was 22, and she met a super untimely death. She was dating a very abusive ex, and he like came back one night, and he actually strangled her.
Yes.
And she had actually, that's why she had left him. He had strangled her in the past, and she escaped and had filed a restraining order, and he had come back, and he wanted to like try and make amends, And allegedly he was a chef. That's not alleged. He was a chef. But he made a mask of her face out of chocolate and sent it to her.
I read about that.
Which I find so creepy.
His name is Tim Sweeney, and he was a chef at this famous restaurant at the time, a mansion.
John Sweeney.
Oh, John Sweeney.
That's right. We will name him so that if you ever meet him, you can throw things at him.
He's irrelevant. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he changed his name, but still. Yeah, so he came over to, like, ask her to take him back, and when she said no, he, like, went crazy, and he started choking her again, and he choked her for so long that she went into a coma. And then he called the police on himself and said, like, I killed my girlfriend and I tried to kill myself. They arrested him, and then she was in the hospital for 4 days, and then eventually she died in November. So that was after the first one, and she was also, again, super young. And yeah, it wasn't like a supernatural death, like she was attacked and
this was
murdered.
Brought on by a curse. It's just the fact that violence against women will always be an issue. Well,
apparently, I don't think it should be, but here we are.
Yeah, here we are. We really do live in the upside down world.
We do?
Yeah, we do.
I don't know. Apparently, we have to say this, but don't choke women or anyone
just
without consent.
Just because they don't want to be with you, you don't have to kill them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good. No. I read a beautiful article in Vanity Fair that her father did. And, I mean, from the very beginning to the end of her life, like, it was just beautiful. Like, in the article, he, you know, talks about being in the hospital with her and telling her to let go, to stop fighting and let go.
Oh.
It was really sad, but he, like, as a father, to carry that burden, like, I should have stepped in and I should have done something. Like, he has that regret.
Oh God, I can only imagine. And that's, you know, survivor's guilt. But,
it is. Yeah.
Ugh, that's so sad. So let's talk about slightly less sad things, because their deaths were both so untimely and so, like, just. Again, not that anyone's death is, like, easy to handle, but just so young and so violent done, and I don't know, I just hate it.
It's like it's that Hollywood tale. You
know?
know?
Unfortunately. Ugh. So there were several on-set happenings that were also, like, sort of connected to the curse. The main one is that if you remember the scene, there's that creepy clown in the bedroom.
That scene scarred me. When I first saw this movie when I was young, okay, I think I was like 13, and I refused to, like, walk past or walk in a room with a stuffed animal clown Clowns or a clown doll. No.
Yeah.
No.
They are really creepy. I don't know why.
That scene scarred me. I mean, I don't mind clowns, but with a clown doll, fuck you. No.
I really don't like clowns. I saw it when I was very young, and it was, like, pretty traumatizing. And I had this weird, like, porcelain wind-up clown doll. And it would, you know, it was like a very sad, like, 1920s hobo-looking clown.
Oh, yeah.
And if you would wind it up, it would, like, rotate kind of, like, on its little hip axis and play Send in the Clowns. So it's like this very sweet gift I think someone gave me. But every once in a while, like, the winding mechanism would kind of, like, unwind a little bit, like, always at, like, 2 a.m. And I would be, like, laying in bed, terrified of the dark, obviously. And it would just, like, rotate a little bit and play, like, 1 or 2 notes of the song. I had to throw that doll away. I was like, no, this great. Like, it was just the winding mechanism. Like,
but still,
after time, like, it unwinds a little bit more, and it would just, like, dee 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 dee. And I'm like, no, that's gotta go. That has got to go.
Bury it in the backyard.
So in that scene, Oliver Robbins, who plays the brother, he gets attacked by the clown doll. But allegedly, on the take that they use, which here we are again, actors are essentially glorified props. The machine actually malfunctioned, and he was actually getting choked, and no one knew because they thought it was just good acting, and so he almost died because the clown was, like, malfunctioning and actually choking him.
Oh my God!
Isn't that crazy?
That is creepy.
This is why you have a safety word, like. Yeah. Look, friends, we all like a good choking, but you need a safety word. It is not okay.
What would be yours?
I don't know. Something short and sweet. Like
pizza.
Pizza. No. Because I scream that too much, so it would just be... Everyone would be like, what? We just got started. Like, I know, I'm just really hungry. Sorry.
Starbucks.
Yeah, why is everybody... I always feel like safety words are always food. That's very odd. It's never like a song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's very weird. Anyway.
It's either food or color.
We've just peeled back like a dark layer.
Yellow.
Let's just close that back open. Yeah. So the last one that I want to talk about is happened to James Caan, who was actually the writer who did the novelization of the film after the first one had actually released.
Oh, yeah. I heard about this one.
Yeah, this one I find a little creepy because the clown one is pretty creepy, but like you could maybe attribute it to just pure mechanical malfunction. The deaths are very creepy and tragic, but also they kind of have a logical conclusion. This is the one that like freaks me out the most.
Right.
So he was hired to author the novelization of the Poltergeist after the first film had released. Mm-hmm. And allegedly when he finished it, it literally, he like hit save or finished his like first draft, and the building that he was writing in was struck by lightning.
No.
And it was so aggressive that the wall-mounted air conditioning unit flew off and hit him in the back of the head, and he like lost consciousness. And when he woke back up, all the power was off, and then it started like flickering off and on. Like the lights would all come on, and then everything would go off, and then all of his like video games would like turn on and like start playing themselves, and then they would like shut down. And this happened for like an hour after, and he like kept trying to like reset the circuit because he thought there was like electrical overfry essentially. Mm-hmm. That is not the correct term, but I just made it up. But he like couldn't get it to stop happening,
right? And
so he basically like thought that his manuscript was cursed and that he had almost died because an air conditioner attacked him. You know, just normal author things. And then there are 2 more deaths that aren't technically connected to the curse because they had been sick prior to, but in the second Poltergeist, if anyone hasn't seen it, there's a good spirit and a bad spirit, and actually both of those actors died after completing filming that. Again, Julian Beck, he plays the evil spirit. He had stomach cancer, so it's not like it wasn't unexpected. But again, like the timing is a little weird. Like he had been fighting it for 18 months, I believe, and then they finished filming and then he died. I'm not laughing at his death. It's just like super ironic.
But it actually, sad as it sounds, he auditioned for this part and he got it because of his look and how the cancer really, you know, made his body look very sickly. Like he had like sunken eyes, sunken cheeks, very pale skin. I think he was going through treatment during that period because you could tell like his hair was just very wiry and thin. Yeah. But it made the part. Like if you've seen the second one, he is very creepy. He's very creepy because last night I watched the first one and the second one.
Girl, you were really doing it.
I was all about it. The second one, in my opinion, was really scary. That one was really creepy.
I've only ever seen the first one.
Because of him. It was extremely creepy.
Oof.
Yeah. He gave me the creepy feels.
Yeah, girl. So the other one, ironically, was Will Sampson, who plays the good spirit in the second one, and who also was the actor in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is also such a good movie. And apparently, when they started filming, he delayed the shoot because he was cleansing the set. He like was getting bad vibes because he was a real life shaman as well. He was an actor, and
that's what I read.
In his practice, he also like practiced shamanism, and he delayed shooting for like 2 hours to like cleanse the set, which I find a little terrifying. Yeah. Like, oh, you're just gonna cleanse the set? Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, he did like a little exorcism on set.
That seems fine.
That seems healthy.
So, and then again, he died after they finished filming. Yeah. From complications with a transplant. So again, not like unforeseen. So it's traditionally the two of them are not connected with the curse per se. It's just a little suspect that they did happen to be playing like the foil to one another, and then they both died like very recently after filming concluded, which I find a little creepy. And I don't like that second one. It's too scary for me.
No, it really was.
And then the last one is, again, a normal causation of death, but again, it's just like once you start connecting all these dots, like, oh, this is creepy that they all kind of were affected, and like came back to this initial project. Luke Hermann is an actor from the first Poltergeist. He played that construction worker.
Oh yeah.
So again, very tiny part. But he actually in 2009 he was murdered in his home.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was like an axe murder?
Yeah, so... Yeah. His killer's name was Seth Tatum.
Oh, my God.
And they don't really know what the motive was, but from the report, it's that he kind of just picked a random door. He was having like a psychotic break, walked down the street, and it happened to be Lou Perriman. You know, right? Like, it wasn't like he sought him out. He wasn't famous.
It was just a random act of violence.
Totally. And then he was later found in his home, and he had been attacked by an axe.
Oh, my God.
And that was the thing. Again, that just seems like a random happenstance. Someone has a psychotic break, and they go on a killing spree. But it is a little creepy that it just happens to be in this neighborhood, the one person who was on this like allegedly haunted film. Like, that's a little creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, axe murdering is creepy anyway, but that certainly doesn't help. Blink, blink. Stop axe murdering ex-actors. It's not for you. So that's like all the occurrences of the original curse.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot compared to the other ones that we talked about.
Yeah.
That's a lot of bad juju.
Yeah, at the very least, it's very sticky feeling. Just like, ugh, why are all these like kind of loosely connected? But then you start connecting the dots and feels a little gross. Like, ugh.
I've been taking these like witchcraft classes at the Mystic Museum here in Burbank, led by the fabulous Mystic Dylan.
Hi.
And it was really cool because we learned about like the history of witchcraft, what, you know, Hollywood fluffed up with it, and how it has evolved to today, and about spell work, about crystals, oils and ointments, and even hexes and curses. So I was looking through my notes, and I remember reading, well, curses or cursing is, you know, manifested from one person to another, or to an object, or to a thing.
Oh, wow.
So when we say curse on a set, it's like, well, who manifested that? You know, who brought that on? And I feel that within time, within all these stories and these thoughts and, you know, the media, we're just feeding into this whole idea of a film being cursed, where maybe that's something we manifest.
Sure.
You know?
And it would make sense that it's passing from
because it gets worse.
actor.
If you think about it, after the first film, it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
With all these, like, you know, passing, and, you know, with the death of Carol, you know, I mean, of Heather O'Rourke, you know, so.
Oh, sweet baby.
And, you know, others. So maybe that could be an explanation for it. There were also paranormal aftermaths.
Yes.
Oh, yes. So, along with revealing the skeletal nature of the curse, no pun intended,
Pun.
Jo Beth Williams, who played the mom in Poltergeist 1, 2, and I believe, no, not 3, but 1 and 2, told E! True Hollywood Story that she would return home every night after filming Poltergeist to find that something had tilted all the pictures in her home.
Ew.
I began to think, is someone trying to send me a message that I shouldn't be doing this film, Williams said to E! True Hollywood Story. And it's true, because she was the only one in those crazy scenes with the skeletons.
Ugh.
Yes. So there was like countless take after take after take with her in the pool, her running around the house with these coffins popping out with these corpses. So Lord knows what juju was attached to those, you know, corpses. And of course, like, you know, back then, the way that they were being treated. And then I read, according to bloodydisgusting.com, director Gil Keenan of the new installment of Poltergeist had some weird occurrences happen to him. One of them was actually self-inflicted. Yeah, so he comes forward and he's like, yeah, this was my fault and this is why. So the location for the house during shooting I chose because it had a strange and unnecessary field that the houses of this particular community were built around, Keenan explained during a Reddit MAA. And we found throughout production that we had persistent and repeatable equipment failure only on that strange plot of land. For instance, lights that could turn on anywhere else in the neighborhood would blow out the second you try to light them on this specific plotted land, he added. Now, also, I used a lot of aerial drone photography in the film, and the drone pilots would never be able to lock in the GPS signal in this specific plot of land.
Ew.
We would have to move 10 feet away to launch the craft. I was too afraid to find out what the land used to be. We filmed outside of Toronto, somewhere between Buffalo, New York, and Toronto, Ontario, and a town called Hamilton.
Whoa.
So this is what he was saying during that Reddit MAA.
AMA.
No, AMA, sorry.
Ask me anything.
Ask me anything. I said MAA. MMA. Even though he chose the land particularly because of its strange field, the place he lived in during the shoot came with a surprise. A woman in black, no relation to Susan Hill's play, no relation to the movie. The house that I rented during filming was straight up legit haunted by a female spirit dressed in black, explained Keenan, and I became aware of her within the first few days of staying in the house, and only after I left did I receive a call from the previous owner who moved in, who was terrified by the going-ons in the house and wanted to see if I had experienced any of it. So it was an incredible real-life inspiration for filming that followed me home. The most terrifying part of the story comes when he discovered that the ghost was following him, even onto the film set.
That's so creepy.
Isn't that creepy? I mean, the ghost had no relation to the film. It's just the place that he just so happened to pick. So I don't know, like, the whole, like, what's up with the town of Hamilton. I don't know what bad, like, juju it has, but now we know, like, it has the specific plot of land where weird things would, happen. And there's a lot of, like, electrical malfunction. And then he is, in this haunted Airbnb with this woman in black.
Yeah. It's weird, too, that he said it, like, followed him back to his place that he was staying while they were filming, but that it didn't, like, follow him home, for example, or, like, back to LA or anything like that. That's so, like, site-specific. Well,
a lot of times they're connected to the land. So maybe it was just connected to the land more than him.
Ugh.
Yeah. But surprisingly, I mean, it didn't follow him back to LA, but I was like, no, I'm going to stay in the East Coast.
Yeah. East Coast ghost.
East Coast ghost. So here's the biggest question. Was the Poltergeist trilogy cursed? What do you think?
Maybe with, like, just unluckiness. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
It's hard because if you look for the number 42, you're going to find the number 42. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think there's a little bit of that where it's like, if you want to look and find something, I think actually the director of this reboot was looking for, whether it was like to have good promotion material or for whatever reasons he may have had. I think he definitely did want a cursed set. Again, the things that were happening in Ontario, like, that is pretty weird, but I think he had a quote saying, like, that he has to, like, look things up, basically. Like, it's almost like picking a scab. Like, he feels like if he looks for the worst possible thing, then it, like, won't get him, kind of. So I kind of feel like with that aspect of it, he is, like, as much to blame as any, like, actual curse. With the original trilogy, I don't know. It's hard to say. There just does seem to be a lot of, like, bad luck that at the very least followed these people.
It's a lot of tragic coincidences. Yeah.
I don't know. So, again, like, do I think it was actually haunted? Not as much as some of the other ones that we've talked about. But there definitely was some weird juju.
Yeah. I agree. I feel like everything that you mentioned about Keenan from, you know, the 2015 installment of the Poltergeist, is like he was looking for something and he surely found it and it followed him.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you find something and it's going to find you.
Yeah.
Before you find it. I don't think it was cursed. I think it was haunted as fuck. I just think that what they brought onto set manifested.
Totally.
You know, that's just what I believe. And, you know, like we mentioned, the individuals who passed, some of them already had pre-existing conditions.
Yeah.
And others, you know, it was just a, you know, strange stroke of bad luck.
Yeah.
And, you know, we mentioned this too. Like, I really just don't think that Dominique Dunn's death was brought on by a freaking curse. It's just brought on the fact that, you know, in light of everything that's going on right now, this is a common occurrence with violence against women. And this has happened a lot, even in different decades and time periods, you know, dating back all the way to, like, you know, Thelma Todd and the Black Dahlia. Even before the Black Dahlia murder, there were a slew of murders with women, younger women, that resembled her. And also, never forget Rebecca Schaefer, who in 1989 was gunned down in front of her apartment by a stalker.
Yeah.
So
I saw a very, you know, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but it was still, like, pretty weighty comic today. And on the left hand, it had a woman being dunked in water. And this man behind her was saying, if she's innocent of witchcraft, she'll die. And if she lives, she's guilty. And then on the right side, it was like two frat guys looking at a woman in, like, modern clothing. And it said, if she's okay, it didn't happen. And if she's not okay, we, like, can't believe her, essentially is what it was saying. And I think that is the thing that's so frustrating, especially right now, is that we're in 2018 and it's really not fucking better. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about this woman who was a young actress in the 80s, almost 40 years ago, and we think like, oh, surely we've done better by these women than that. Like, surely we've come farther since the 80s, since the 70s, since the 50s, since the 30s,
right,
since the 1800s, since the 1600s. Like, how far back do you want to go? And it's like, surely we are doing better for these people, and we're not. And it's really, you know, obviously I don't want to, like, end this on, like, a very downer note, but this is kind of the moment that we're in where it's like, you read these headlines and you're like, oh my God, like, she was choked to death, and she was put into a coma, and she was fighting for her life, and she had this, like, abusive relationship. It's like, that surely wouldn't be something, but then we read the headlines and there's almost no difference. And it's just like, man, what a bummer.
You want to know what's so messed up about her case? Sweeney was given 6.5 years in prison, and he only served 3.5 for good behavior. He was released.
Is it sad that I was shocked that he even had to serve 3 years?
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
That's what's really fucked up.
That we're so skewed that I was like, wow, he had to serve half? That's crazy.
He's living a normal, quiet life while Dominique Dunn is still buried 6 feet under, you know? Here we go. We live in the upside down world.
It is very frustrating.
It is.
You know, again, to end on a slightly positive note, I don't know. We're going to have to think about a positive note, but, you know, just keep fighting, keep struggling, and don't choke people.
Poltergeist curse. Was it cursed or not? We don't think it was. We just think that it was a slew of tragic coincidences. But we like to know what you guys think.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely email us your thoughts at hollyweirdparanormal@gmail.com for sure. But before we end our episode, we have 2 major notes to
Yes, this is a positive note.
I know.
Good.
This is the
Good
biggest one right here, guys. So we are also going to be doing a drawing, guys, by the end of this week for tickets to our live show.
Oh, that old thing?
Oh, yeah, just a little show. Make sure that you are following us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter for details. So if you live in and around the LA area, or say like, hey, I'm going to take a little trip to LA during the week of Halloween, then you want to submit your name for the drawing. So the drawing will be for a pair of tickets for our October 31st show. And this is going to include a performance of Susan Hill's The Woman in Black.
Oh, amazing.
Followed by our performance, our live show. And then afterwards, you get to sippy on some wine with us. You get to meet us, take pictures with us, hang out with us, see Bryce get scared like a little girl.
Yeah, that all seems really worth submitting.
So we'll post it on our social media. Just make sure you're following us to see those posts. Submit your name for a chance to win a pair of tickets. We'll definitely pull the name out of the hat. And this will not be the only drawing. We'll have like 2 or 3 more for sure.
And if y'all haven't seen this play, like if you've only seen the Daniel Radcliffe movie,
oh my God, yes.
and you live in the area, this is worth seeing. Like, it is by far and away the scariest play I've ever seen. It is so well done. I've never seen this version, but it's coming from, I don't know, what's a little place called the West End.
Yeah.
So you know
it's a little place.
Yeah, you know it's legit, but it's honestly, there is something about, again, for me, someone who hates scary movies, I will look for any way to like distance myself from the fear. And so like having a screen and like reminding myself like, this is a movie, this is on a screen, you're fine.
Right.
Has like gotten me through some of my darkest times. But there is something about like live theater that you cannot distance yourself from.
No.
It is scary. It is a beautifully told story, but oh man, is it terrifying.
It's
like,
very terrifying.
That is happening in front of you in real time.
Every single person who I've spoken to about this show have said the same thing. It's one of the scariest live productions I've ever seen.
And I think
on stage.
Horror theater is a semi-untapped market. You know, we definitely live in like a musical theater era of theater right now, which is amazing. Obviously, I love that so much. But like horror theater is such an untapped, like rich field.
Oh, yeah.
And this one like really does it. So like a couple people have said like, oh, I know, but it's like Halloween. Like I wanted. I'm like, trust me, you are not going to regret this. It is scary.
Will shit in your pants.
I hope not, because we have to see you after. So please don't do that.
Where depends on bringing an extra pair.
Yay.
There you go. All right. And also, guys, you get to meet us, electronically meet us if you can't make it to our live show. So here's the thing. We are going to be on the show Girls vs. Ghost on City Space on October the 24th.
Oh, it's so soon.
It's so soon. We'll blink and it's like, oh, hey there.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really cool show. I really love these women. They do such an amazing job in the paranormal community, and it's going to be a fun show. Yeah. So you definitely don't want to miss out on it. You will definitely have to tune in to our social medias to follow up on when and how to see us and how to log on to VidiSpace and all that jazz for sure. But also, just a side note, just make sure that you guys are following us on our social media. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at HWP Podcast, and on Instagram and Facebook at Hollyweird Paranormal, because we have a lot of great stuff planned for Halloween, and they're already set for Halloween. We're in talks of getting a special guest on the show, guys. We are in talks of getting this literally big guest. He's on a very, very, very famous show right now. And I can't give out any more details, but we're in talks with him.
It's Sesame Street. I couldn't keep it in anymore.
Way to go,
I know.
Grover.
I know.
There he goes, Grover. So yes, you definitely want to be following us to figure out who it is, because we're still like in shock. Yeah.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And also, just as an echo, we are having a live show October 30th and 31st at Pasadena Playhouse. We'll be going up from 10:30 till 11:30. So we follow The Woman in Black. And you definitely don't want to miss this show. You can go on PasadenaPlayhouse.org for more information.
Yes.
You'll see the little link that says Woman in Black. Just click on it, and we're a part of their Halloween premium package. if you're willing to go in, and just like buy some tickets. They still have tickets available, but tune in if you definitely want to win some tickets for this month for sure, guys. And don't think we're going to end this episode without giving a shout out to our spiritual bays of the week. We have two. There are True Crime and Chill. China Lamb and Abigail Van Winkle are the bays that like to true crime and chill with their true crime and comedy podcast. They will make you laugh, they will make you cry, but most of all, they will make you chill with some crazy true crime tales. And the second one is The Golden Ghouls. Hosts Alyssa Menace, Emily Alston, and Kylie Smiley chat about ghosts and all things paranormal. They're all about the ghoul talk with their creepy ghost tales. They had done a great episode of My Town, New Orleans.
Love.
I reached out to them. I was like, that was actually a really good episode. Thank you. So go check them out. They're really fun. And yeah, guys, if you love Hollyweird Paranormal, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give us a review on Apple iTunes. It really helps us out a lot. It helps us become a little more visible. And like I mentioned before, if you can't get enough of us, make sure you're tuning into our current and past episodes on blueberry.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, Castbox, Player FM, and Spotify. Ooh, guys. All right, guys, till next time. Bryce, do you have anything you want to say?
Nope.
What's your safe word?
You'll never know.
Damn it.
I don't have one. That's right. She doesn't have one.
Here I go again, girl. What's my safe word? Pizza.
Love it.
Done. All right, till next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye.